By November 1831, the Lord had given more than 60 revelations to his prophet Joseph Smith about the restoration of the gospel, organization of the church, and for many different people. The church had only been organized for 18 months, and John Whitmer had hand-copied many of these revelations onto sheets of paper, while some were bound into record books. During these early days of the church, most members did not have access to the revelations, and missionaries and their converts needed copies of them. Joseph Smith called a special conference of elders at John and Elsa Johnson's home in Hiram, Ohio, to discuss compiling and publishing a collection of the Lord's revelations. These would then be more accessible to church members in a Book of Commandments. Most books have a preface in the front where the author tells the reader the intent of the book and purpose for reading it. John A. Whitstow wrote that a good preface should help readers understand the book, prepare them for its contents, and display them in a concentrated manner. Joseph Smith wanted the Book of Commandments to have a preface, and a committee of the church's best writers, including Sidney Rigdon, Oliver Cowdery, and William E. McClellan, gathered to write a preface for the Book of Commandments. They tried very hard, but picked it all to pieces, and were unhappy with the results. These elders then asked Joseph Smith to petition the Lord for a revelation of the preface to the Book of Commandments. On November 1st, 1831, the prophet prayed, and the Lord revealed what he called my preface to the book of my commandments. Joseph Smith dictated this preface he had received by revelation to Sidney Rigdon while sitting by a window in the room. He would deliver a few sentences as Sidney wrote them down and read them aloud. If correct, then Joseph would deliver more until the revelation was recorded in its final form. Elders at the conference included future apostles Orson Hyde, Luke Johnston, Lyman Johnson, Parley P. Pratt, and Lyman White, who all signed a document bearing witness that these commandments are given by inspiration of God and are profitable for all men. The Lord's preface became Section 1 of the Doctrine and Covenants, even though it was actually received between Sections 67 and 68. It was placed at the front of the Book of Commandments, later called the Doctrine and Covenants, the only book with the honor of having a preface given by the Lord himself. At the conclusion of the Conference of Elders, Oliver Cowdery and John Whitmer took a copy of the edited Revelations to Independence, Missouri, where William W. Phelps, a church member and printer, would do the actual printing. He had been called as the printer unto the church, and a printing press was purchased in Cincinnati, Ohio, and shipped to Independence. The publication was nearly complete in July 1833, when a mob attacked the print shop and destroyed the building, the printing press, and most of the printed sheets of Revelations. Several people, including two young women named Mary Elizabeth Rollins and her sister Caroline, saved some of these printed pages. They were gathered and eventually bound into a few copies of an incomplete version of the book. The Book of Revelations received by Joseph Smith was called the Covenants and Commandments of the Lord, or Covenants for short. The early saints referred to these revelations as covenants or commandments to tell them apart from Joseph Smith's other writings, including inspired sermons and translations of the Bible. A second, more complete compilation of revelations Joseph Smith received was published in 1835, called the Doctrine and Covenants. It contained 103 revelations, a preface, a series of lectures on church doctrine called the Lectures on Faith, and 7 lectures given to the School of the Elders during the winter of 1834 and 1835. This was organized into 2 parts. Part 1 of the Doctrine and Lectures on Faith, and Part 2 of the Covenants, Commandments, and Revelations given to Joseph Smith. Later editions of the Doctrine and Covenants were printed as new revelations were added, with changes to how they were organized in the book. The Lectures on Faith were not included after the 1921 edition because they were theological lectures that were not given or presented as revelations to the church. In 1981, the church published a new English-language edition of the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price, with expanded footnotes, cross-references, and a new index. Joseph Smith's 1836 vision of the celestial kingdom and Joseph F. Smith's 1918 vision of the redemption of the dead were added to the Doctrine and Covenants as sections 137 and 138, along with Wilford Woodruff's manifesto announcing the discontinuation of the practice of plural marriage in the Church, and the First Presidency announcement of Spencer W. Kimball's revelation extending priesthood and temple blessings to all worthy male members of the Church as official declarations 1 and 2. The explanatory introduction was also revised with more information about Joseph Smith and the nature and purpose of the Doctrine and Covenants. The Lord revealed warnings, commandments, and instructions for our happiness and salvation throughout the Doctrine and Covenants. Section 1 begins with, "Hearken, O ye people of my church, saith the voice of him who dwells on high, and whose eyes are upon all men. Yea, verily I say, hearken ye people from afar, and ye that are upon the islands of the sea, listen together." And it ends with, "Search these commandments, for they are true and faithful, and the prophecies which are in them shall all be fulfilled. For behold, and lo, the Lord is God, and the Spirit beareth record, and the record is true, and the truth abideth forever and ever. Amen." And this is an overview of the Lord's preface to the Doctrine and Covenants in Section 1. Look for hidden images located in the video. You can support Ponderfun by visiting our Etsy site and Facebook page to find overviews, activity puzzles, and more fun things to do. Please like and share these videos with anyone you think might enjoy them. And please subscribe to this Ponderfun YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, and find some time this week to ponder.